I go out on my dock at night up north where I am now, and it's dark, and the expanse of the heavens is laid out above me, and I look up. Well, I'm not thinking religious thoughts. I'm confronting the infinite itself, and that moves you inside. And I would say it even moves you to imitation, because you know what it means to have your head in the stars, right? I mean, it means to be oriented up in the highest possible manner. And so we're so compelled to imitate, again, at an instinctual level, that we can even imitate the infinite that we see spread above us in the night sky. And that's a religious calling. And all this talk about whether you believe in God, and it's all propositionalized. It's like, well, it misses the point. That's why I don't ever answer when people say, do you believe in God? I say, what do you mean by believe? And they think, well, you know what I mean. It's like, no, you don't know what you mean. You have a bunch of assumptions that you don't even recognize, that you're peppering the question with to force me into a box to deliver the kind of answer that your question demands, given the way you phrased it. It's like, no.
You've made headway on this when you've talked. I watched just about a week ago with your chat with Steven Pinker and Jonathan Haidt, two guys who I hold in the highest intellectual regard. I've had them on the show. I like them both very much. They come from the more atheist perspective on this. We've talked about this a million times.
Yeah, so they think.
But right. Okay, so that's it.
That's
what your argument is. That
I'm going to Cambridge and Oxford to talk about this, in detail, what I just laid out. It's like, because what I want to do is, especially when I go to the UK in these conversations, is I want to lay out a technical argument for sacred depth. So imagine this. We have a intuition that there's depth in literature. Because we think, well, that's a shallow story, and that's a deep story, and we think, well, that was really compelling and gripping. It hit me at a profound level, right? Versus, well, that was just light entertainment, right? We all have those intuitions. So what is this depth, and how far down does it go? Well, it goes down to the bottom of things. What's at the bottom? Well, what's at the bottom is by definition religious. And why would I say that? Well, it's because when things move you at that level, that's how you experience it. It's not thought. It's way deeper. So it's like I go out on my dock at night up north where I am now, and it's dark, and the expanse of the heavens is laid out above me, and I look up. Well, I'm not thinking religious thoughts. I'm confronting the infinite itself, and that moves you inside. And I would say it even moves you to imitation, because you know what it means to have your head in the stars, right? I mean, it means to be oriented up in the highest possible manner. And so we're so compelled to imitate, again, at an instinctual level, that we can even imitate the infinite that we see spread above us in the night sky. And that's a religious calling. And all this talk about whether you believe in God, and it's all propositionalized. It's like, well, it misses the point. That's why I don't ever answer when people say, do you believe in God? I say, what do you mean by believe? And they think, well, you know what I mean. It's like, no, you don't know what you mean. You have a bunch of assumptions that you don't even recognize, that you're peppering the question with to force me into a box to deliver the kind of answer that your question demands, given the way you phrased it. It's like, no. You say you don't believe in God. It's like, well, God is ineffable. What do you mean you don't believe in God? Well, what do you believe in then? Nothing? Well, no. Everything? Well, no, that doesn't work, because then you're chaotic. Well, what's your highest value? Diversity? Equity? Inclusivity? Well, I don't need a highest value. Well, yes, you do, because otherwise nothing orients you through the landscape of choices. This isn't optional.
So to give the devil his due, then when you've had the conversations with a lot of these guys, you just talked to Sam Harris again, also, all of these guys.
That went great, by the way.
At the end, people that are not necessarily believers, your basic argument, I'm doing a little 101 here, is that you're a believer whether you believe it or not, that you're being...
Well, Harris, okay, let's take Harris as a good example. Harris does not believe in God, but he believes in the devil. So he's halfway there. And why do I say
I think he believes Trump is the devil. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a mistake. He also believes religion is the devil, and that's also a mistake. Yeah. So what do I mean when I say that he believes in the devil? Well, all I did the last time I talked to Sam was ask him questions. That was that's something I highly recommend as a strategy. Like, just find out from the person you're talking to what they think, you know? And don't try to win. Try to learn. Well, so Sam is really motivated by the same thing that motivated me like 30 years ago. He looked at the panoply of human atrocity. It terrified him right to the core. It's like, well, anything but this. And he wants something like an objective standard of values. Now, he thinks it can be found in science. I think that's technically wrong, but it's an argument worth having, and we don't know how to sort out the relationship between science and values. But the thing is that Sam certainly believes in evil. Okay, well, if you believe in evil, you also believe in good, because good is the opposite of evil, whatever that is. And, well, what's God? What's God? Well, God is what's good. Well, okay, what does that mean? Is he a spirit? Like, is he a spirit in the sky? Well, what do you mean by spirit? So here's something to think about. This is what I think. When I look back at the good men that I've been fortunate enough to know in my life, there's a spirit that shines through each of them that makes them good. That's how I can tell that each of them is good. Well, the essence of that good, that's no different than God. It might even be God. Now, you say, well, what does that mean, that spirit? Well, it's whatever is common among good men, let's say. Was that real? Well, isn't what's common among things more real than what's different? And why a spirit? Well, it animates them. Like, it's an animating force. It's not a disembodied abstraction, which is the problem with like conceptions of God like Einstein's conception. It's so disembodied, it has no connection to the world. And that causes the death of God, that abstraction. Mircea Eliade documented deaths of God in many cultures across history. It's not only something that happened in the West that Nietzsche announced. And it happens when the idea of God gets so abstracted that it no longer has any connection with the world. Well, and those are the things I'm going to talk about at Cambridge and Oxford. It's like, and I'm going to talk to Richard Dawkins. So that's so cool, because I'd like to ask him some questions, because Dawkins is smart, and he's put forward maybe the most coherent, biologically oriented argument for clockwork determinism, something like that.
Well, Jordan, I mean, I have to tell you, this is what, I mean, I know you know this, but when we were on tour, I think the thing that you changed me on more than anything else, I talk about in my book, there were two things. It was the importance of being a parent, because you would always say most people to live a fully actualized life have to go through that experience. There are some exceptions, but most people. But the other one was connecting to belief. And I think what changed me on this was watching you do these lectures every night, saying the truth, saying, I'm just saying what I believe to be true and trying to take my thoughts to the end, and then I'll explore them further the next night. But then seeing that translate into real world change for people, the literally thousands of people who had unbelievable stories about the terrors that they had been through that had turned their lives around. And I thought that is the higher good. That is God, that it's not, that it's, we can do the whole definition game and all that, but that you, especially at the peak of that thing, were expressing something that was so profoundly true that we all know, that maybe we can't exactly get into the box that we can just hand to somebody and say, this is it. But that was enough to move me. I think that's really the argument you're trying to make, that you'll bring to Cambridge and Oxford and to Dawkins and everybody else.
Yeah, well, and I would say in your situation, I know you're contemplating fatherhood, and it's probably the right spirit to inhabit you as a political commentator, let's say a cultural commentator. So that's a good way to reconstrue it, you know, to the degree that you can be, because you're getting old enough now to that's the right role. You know, you're not sort of upward striving hero youth. It's that you're in that transition. And like benevolent father, that's a good one, man. And there's no limit to the number of people you can bring that to. And there's no limit to how much good that'll do in your own life and in relationship to your own children.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.